Welcome back to Creative Excuses and one of the videos I am most excited to post. Today, I am going to showcase for you one of my favorite mods that I have created, Origin Classes Complete. This is a mod that grants each of the 6 main origin and companion characters in Baldur's Gate 3 their own unique class with advantages and cool features that open up some massive build possibilities. Let's jump into it. So here's the basic concept for the mod. Each of the 6 main origin characters gets their own class with their own thematic features based on their lore. Some of the characters have features that scale throughout their leveling journey, and some do not, but are still very powerful. But here's the real catch. Each class is only 1 level. Why? So that you don't feel pressured to use and only build the character in one specific way, which is what I felt when I played through the game a few times with my previous mods, which made full level 12 classes for Gale, Shadowheart, and Karlach. I didn't like how constraining that felt for me, and I really didn't want to make 3 more full classes, so I scoped down the mod series into this project, and this is the result, and I am very happy with this result. Each character effectively sacrifices a feat at a 12th level in another class or some part of a multi-class for what I think are some really interesting features that match up with the character's lore and in-lore feats. Let's see what each character has to offer with this new system. First up, everyone's favorite vampire, Astarion. Astarion's default class in-game is a rogue, and he is a sneaky, charming vampire that has been desperate to feed on something substantial for many years, and so his features revolve around being a roguish vampire. Astarion gets 2 main features in his Night Stalker class. Cunning Action Hide, which allows him to sneak using a bonus action, just like a rogue, and perhaps one of the strongest default actions available to any of these origin character classes, Vampiric Touch, as a cantrip. But this Vampiric Touch isn't just the default level 3 Vampiric Touch spell. Instead, this Vampiric Touch is a cantrip with cantrip scaling, but it also benefits from sneak attacks built into the spell. What does that mean? It means from levels 1 to 4, it deals 1d10 damage and heals Astarion for half as much. From levels 4 to 10, it deals 2d10 damage and heals Astarion for half as much, and from levels 11 to 12, it deals 3d10 and heals for half as much. But I said it benefits from sneak attacks, didn't I? Built into this spell and the character level progression, not the class level progression, is the scaling 1d6 sneak attack damage that rogues get. That means if Astarion has advantage and does not have disadvantage, he will get up to 6d6 extra damage. This spell he gets from level 1 will deal increasing damage and increasing healing throughout the game, with a rather insane range of 9 to 66 damage at level 11 and up to 15 healing. Side note, I thought that this sneak attack feature would affect the healing, and I intended it to, but it doesn't right now, and I think I may try and add that in an update. So I think that this is incredible and very thematic for a desperate and increasingly powerful vampire. But that isn't all. He gets a few minor benefits as well, like an extra 1.5 meters of movement speed to help him get into sneak attack position, as well as persuasion and deception expertise because of his overwhelming charm and charisma. Second, we have everyone's best friend, Karlach. Karlach is an escaped soldier of the Blood War in the Hells, a battle-tested and battle-hardened barbarian with a literal heart of fire and a figurative heart of gold, and enough pent-up rage and power to level a city. In the Heart of Fire 1 level class, Karlach gets a few minor benefits and then 2 really cool ones. First, she gets a passive called Soldier of the Blood War, which grants her +2 to her initiative rolls. This passive represents her quick reflexes developed fighting demons in the Blood War and from living on edge for 10 years straight. Next, she gets Escaped from the Hells, which allows her to ignore difficult terrain. If hell couldn't keep her in, mud certainly won't slow her down. Finally, among the minor benefits, Karlach gets guaranteed extra attack at level 5 regardless of any other class levels that she takes. This passive represents her martial damage dealing nature, but it's also there to make sure that her level 5 progression isn't upset by using this 1 level dip. All this passive does is grant extra attack at character level 5. That does open up Gish potential for her quite well, which I don't think would be too far-fetched with the whole infernal magic-powered engine and eating soul coins deal, but it is a neat feature nonetheless. The final 2 things are the most exciting though. She gets her own unique rage and 2 rage charges to power it. This rage is simple. It adds 1d4 hellfire damage to her attacks, and gives her resistance to magical and non-magical physical damage. This Hellfire effect also applies to any other fire damage that she deals, so if you get to stack up a bunch of heat or a bunch of fire damage, it'll all bypass resistances. This is incredibly thematic and very fun and reasonably powerful. It only adds the same average damage as a standard rage, but it has a higher ceiling and plays better with critical hits thanks to an added damage die instead of +2. But the most exciting thing of all is a single use for the entire campaign ability called 10 Years of Fury, which is another unique rage. I'm not going to show this one because that might ruin the fun of it, but here is the tooltip. The short of it is that at level 10, Karlach unlocks this once per campaign rage that causes her melee weapon attacks to explode as hellfire fireballs all around her target. This is purpose built for one particular fight, but you can use it in any fight after level 10. But again, you can only use it once, even if you respec. It is incredibly powerful and might have an unintended buggy interaction in the fight that I designed it for, but it's so fun, so just give it a shot. Next up, God's favorite princess, Shadowheart, gets some really interesting stuff. Shadowheart is a Sharin acolyte on a mission. She has the training of a cleric, but the zeal of a paladin, and so her class follows suit with a few extra features. First up, she gets 2 spell slots and a unique paladin plus cleric spell list to go with those slots that represent her training. She gets access to these spells with a special note for her own Wrathful Smite variant. This Wrathful Smite does not cost a bonus action or concentration, and it scales in damage at cantrip levels up to 3d6 at level 10 and beyond. This Smite is here to represent her training and practice in torture from her Sharin background and feels quite fitting. Second, she gets the ability to bind a weapon to herself, allowing that weapon to use her wisdom for its attack and damage rolls. However, the only weapon types that she can bind are daggers and spears. Daggers because of that one scene with Lae'zel, and spears because of, well, spoilers. This weapon bind will give the weapons the returning property as well. One extra thing, when she attacks with daggers, she gets to add her dexterity to the damage just to make daggers a little bit more viable. With my suggested stats, that's only a +2 to damage, but it can obviously go much higher than that if you do some crazy stuff. Third, she gets maybe the most powerful feature for the early game out of all of these classes, and that is at will Shadow Step, which allows her to teleport from shadow to shadow or obscured area to obscured area. This functions exactly like the level 6 Shadow Monk feature in that it gives advantage on the next melee attack roll. This might be a little overtuned, but I really did not want to go through the hassle of requiring improved UI and making a unique resource for this feature. That's too much work for too little balance. Keeping it simple and a little strong was better to me than making it complex and limited. Overall, quite powerful and fun for God's favorite princess and the daughter of darkness. Now we come to the wizard that we all deserve, Gale. Gale was an archmage, the lover of the goddess of magic, and so ambitious it cost him almost everything. He has this thing in his chest that makes him eat magical items and always hungers for more. His class, the Orb Bearer, has proven the most controversial in the comment section on the mod, so I'm curious to hear what you guys all think. Here is what his class does. The Orb Bearer gets access to the standard wizard spell list, along with the ability to learn spells. Those are his minor and mostly uncontroversial features. His controversial feature is that his highest level spell slot available to him is always a Warlock spell slot, and his normal spell slots stop progressing at level 3. This is kind of confusing, so let me demonstrate. At level 1, with just this class, Gale has 2 level 1 Warlock spell slots and 1 normal spell slot. And that's just there to let him learn spells like a wizard immediately, which he wouldn't be able to do otherwise because of Warlock spell slot problems. So that means 6 spells per day, 7 with the normal spell slot. At level 2, a normal spell progression would give him 3 level 1 normal spell slots. But because level 1 spells are his highest, he's still only going to have 2 level 1 Warlock slots and 1 regular one, even when we multi-class him into a wizard. At level 3 though, we're going to unlock level 2 spell slots, which means our Warlock spell slots move up to level 2, and we unlock all of our level 1 spell slots at the same time. So that means we've unlocked 4 level 1 spell slots all in one go, giving us up to 10 spells in a day. More if we have a bard in the party, a bard or 2 or 3 in the party. At level 4, we have the same number of slots, but at level 5, we unlock our 3rd level slots. Those become our Warlock slots, and we unlock all of our level 2 normal spell slots. This continues in this sort of pattern all the way up the chain of spell slots until we end up with 2 level 6 Warlock spell slots, giving Gale unparalleled power as a wizard, capable of casting on his own, without cheese strategies or items, 6 level 6 spells in a day. More if you have a bard or potions of angelic rest or anything like that. However, This comes with a trade-off because of how ludicrously powerful that can be. At level 7, when Gale unlocks 4th level Warlock spell slots, his normal slots stop progressing. This means he will only ever get up to 4 level 1 slots, 3 level 2 slots, and 3 level 3 slots. He will not have 4th level or 5th level spell slots. At late game and end game, he is trading those 4th and 5th level slots for significantly more casts of his highest level slots per day. The controversy over this comes from its compatibility with level 20 mods because it means you will have a weird gap at 4th and 5th level slots. It also means if other mods add spells but did not add proper upcasts of those spells, you will not be able to use Gale's Warlock spell slots to cast those spells. I can technically solve that first problem with level 20 mods, I think, but the upcasting or inability to upcast is a problem that I can't solve without making compatibility patches, which is just not something that's feasible for me to do. Another controversy is that some think this doesn't seem nearly as powerful as Shadowheart's class, especially. Perhaps I overvalue the higher level spell slots and the extra longevity and power that it can bring to each fight, and maybe I can beef it up without breaking anything, but I'm not sure. This is especially challenging for me because the way that the spell slots are created is from this one level class and a passive, not through the normal progression tables. That means no matter what, Gale will end up with 2 6th level Warlock spell slots regardless of your other class choices, which means he can be a great Gish character, a fantastic Eldritch Knight, or the best arcane trickster the world has ever seen. And I find that very fun. It also means he can work really well as a paladin and just spend those slots on smites, but who knows. But obviously, some of those are more in lore than others. I think Arcane Trickster, to be fair, is pretty in lore, and I think I'll make an Arcane Trickster build video for him, just because he's been like sneaking around, eating magical items, finding them forever. Like, he might as well be an Arcane Trickster. He even teaches illusion. Come on. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, or over on my Discord server, which is linked in the description. I have quite enjoyed this take on Gale's lore and class, but honestly, I'm a bit biased, so give me your thoughts below. Next up, the astral frog lady herself, Lae'zel. Lae'zel is an interesting lore case. She's a Githyanki trained in combat from her hatching in order to fight against the Illithid Grand Design. She is a capable fighter, a bit naive even in her own culture, and sometimes very rude. But everyone seems to love her most days. Her class, the Astral Soldier, focuses on her martial training and is really quite powerful, featuring Githyanki-themed fighter abilities. First, she gets a choice of a unique Githyanki fighting style, either greatsword fighting or longsword fighting. With greatsword fighting, she is exceptionally accurate with her attacks, making her unable to roll lower than a 6 on her attack rolls with a greatsword. This is incredible and will make her an absolute menace to lower armor class enemies especially. The other option is longsword fighting, which allows her to use the most powerful stat in the game, dexterity, for her attack and damage rolls with longswords. Longsword fighting will make her entirely single attribute dependent, which is incredibly strong, and still allows her to use some very good weapons alongside Great Weapon Master. I'm especially partial to the adamantine longsword for this purpose, especially in Act 2 where so many enemies are resistant to slashing damage. The Astral Soldier, like Karlach, also receives guaranteed extra attack at level 5, ensuring that she can make the most of her martial training and without delaying her progression. This does make her an even better Gish candidate than Karlach because Rage won't impede her ability to cast spells, and especially when combined with her next feature, Riposte. That is right, Lae'zel gets a built-in riposte to her class kit, and it does not cost a resource to use. This means she has the potential to get out more attacks than almost any other character in a given day, which is exceptionally powerful. This riposte is just a normal attack without any additional damage die, but it is just such a reliable method of using her reaction offensively that it is incredible, especially when used with the longsword fighting and the increased armor class that you'll get from that. However, that riposte isn't entirely free to use every turn, because sometimes you may need a little damage reduction, and Githyanki do know how to reduce damage, don't they? Ready to parry is such an annoying feature that the Gith enemies in the game have, so I gave a version of it to our resident Frog Lady. Lae'zel gets her own unique ready to parry, which is more efficient, but less powerful than her NPC counterparts. This version is a simple 1d4 damage reduction to any physical damage taken, and it can be used infinitely so long as you still have a reaction point available. In practice, this means you can riposte for damage, opportunity attack, or counterspell, or whatever else that costs a reaction, or you can parry an infinite number of attacks. This is a very powerful feature, especially in the early game against goblins who often deal 2 instances of physical damage when they hit, both of which can be reduced by 1d4 each. Just remember, if you don't have a reaction point available to spend, you won't get the damage reduction. And finally, the origin character that everyone says is the most boring, Wyll, the Blade of Frontiers. Wyll is a warlock with a devil on his shoulder, a blade in his hand, and an eldritch blast in his heart. He saves people because he thinks it's the right thing to do, and because he probably really wants to be liked. Daddy issues or something. The Blade of Frontiers class features are pretty simple and play to his character's lore. He gets 2 prime warlock cantrips in Eldritch Blast and Blade Ward, except this version of Blade Ward only costs a bonus action and has no cooldown. His Eldritch Blast, on the other hand, is automatically empowered by the Agonizing Blast invocation so that no matter what his other class choice is, he always gets the powerful laser beams. Additionally, because he's portrayed as much more melee combatant than ranged, he also gets the thematically named Daredevil Gloves effect. Essentially, he can cast attack roll spells in melee distance without disadvantage without sacrificing his glove slot. This is very nice if you want to build him as an Eldritch Blaster, a bard, or even a sorcerer, but still play him in melee range. His final feature is another nice bonus action. While wielding a rapier, shortsword, or scimitar, Wyll can use the Flourish weapon bonus action at will. This weapon action will deal half of your weapon's standard damage but apply all of the weapon riders as normal. Additionally, if the target fails a dexterity saving throw, they will be set off balance, which grants advantage on attack rolls against it until it takes damage again. This is a very powerful and thematic feature, allowing Wyll to combo with other party members or his own attacks really well as ensuring he almost always has the opportunity to make a bladed weapon attack each turn of combat so that he is truly the Blade of Frontiers. And that is everyone. This is certainly a long video, but there is a lot to go over. I think each class has a lot of power in its kit and has the potential to add a lot of flavor to each companion's build paths. I'm super excited to combine a lot of this with some of the new subclasses on the way, especially Swashbuckling Rogue, which just sounds so much fun to me, and with other mods, of course. It's been a ton of fun. So coming up next for Baldur's Gate 3 content from me is going to be a few more mod showcases, a new Vanilla Plus compilation mod, and some build videos using that Vanilla Plus setup in the future. Get subscribed if you want to keep up with my content, join my Discord to chat about Baldur's Gate 3, RuneScape, or Elder Scrolls Online, and maybe drop $1 in my Ko-Fi so I can buy some Olive Garden. Until next time, I'll see you all in the next excuse.
I fight to save lives.
Repositioning.
The pride of the gate.